Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is kind of a piggyback off one of the videos that I put together last week, which was a ranking of all of the new releases for 2021 that I have read this year. And in that book, I had 10 new fantasy/sci-fi releases that I had read. And I just went through them, ranking them from the one that I enjoyed the most to the one that I enjoyed the least. Or I guess it was least to best. And that was really fun, and it kind of gave me an opportunity to talk about the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like, while also acknowledging that just because certain books didn't work for me, that didn't mean that they weren't going to work for other people. What I would also like to do is just put together a video to talk about the remaining releases for 2021 that I would like to read. So this is not really an anticipated releases video because there are lots of new releases that are coming out in the last quarter of 2021. Lots of which look really interesting, some of which are very popular continuations to series that I know everybody is really anticipating, like the end of the Senlin series, the new Joe Abercrombie novel. There are lots of books like that I am just not ready to read yet because I am not at that point in those particular series. So today's video is going to be a hopefully brief overview of the 6 2021 releases that I want to read before the end of the year. I really tried to keep this list small because I would like to actually get to read all of these books. And even though I don't want to put anyone into a state of crisis, there is only 4 reading months left in the year. So when you think about it, that's not a lot of books. And I have buddy reads and I have other older books that I'm really interested in reading and really excited to read, continuations of series, etc. So I think that trying to squeeze in 6 new science fiction fantasy releases is probably the maximum that I can do right now. And 3 of these books are books that have already been released, and 3 of them are upcoming releases. So I'll start with the books that have already been released, and I own all 3 of these books. So that's why I would like to get to them. They were books that I had on my anticipated releases list for 2021, and I just didn't get the time to get around to reading them. The first and the earliest release that I have left to read is Brother Red by Adrian Selby. So I did have this on one of my TBRs for this year, but it's just a book that I ended up not being able to get around to reading. But it sounded really good. It's a standalone grimdark fantasy novel. I believe it follows a female protagonist, and I have heard from people who have read it that it is really good. I think that it hasn't gotten a lot of buzz. It doesn't have a ton of ratings on Goodreads. So I'd also like to be able to read it because if I like it, it would be nice to be able to recommend that to people. I know a lot of people are always looking for standalone books to read. So whenever you find a good standalone that you feel like you can push into the hands of other people, I consider that to be a win. So I am really hoping to get to this one before the end of the year. I have a copy, it's just upstairs. And so I would really, really like to get to read that. The second book is one that I actually just picked up on a Kindle sale the other day. So there were a bunch of books that were up on Kindle for $1.99, and I could not resist. I think I bought 4 books at that time. I don't ever do my Kindle purchases in my book hauls. I just don't remember is the problem. So it never seems to pop up. But I did buy a couple of books last week on Kindle, one of which was Mask of Mirrors. And this is a 2021 release that has also been recommended to me. So when I put out that video last week ranking my favorites of 2021, there were a couple of people who have been watching the channel and who know my taste who recommended that I pick up that book and read it because they felt that it would be something that I would enjoy. So I got it on this Kindle sale, and I am really hopeful that I'll be able to get it. I don't know a lot about this. I know that the cover is a mask. I think maybe the setting is kind of quasi-Venetian. Do not quote me on that. I am just thinking of a random thought that maybe came up when I watched someone else's booktube video about it once, but I think that may be what the setting is. I honestly don't know anything else above that. I just saw that it was on sale on Kindle, and then a bunch of people told me that they felt like I would like it, and so I am going to try to read it before the end of the year. And then, of course, the last already released book that I want to get to is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan, which I have talked about a million times. Everybody on BookTube knows what this book is. It's the Mulan meets the Song of Achilles release. The cover is beautiful. It has a ton of hype. I know that people whose opinions tend to align really well with mine have really enjoyed it, and I am very much looking forward to it. I am wondering how much of a military aspect there is. I know it's military fantasy, and I am not sure how I feel about military fantasy yet. I really like combat in fantasy, but I think the bigger, like grand scope sieges, huge, large scale battles, I still can sometimes struggle with a little bit. It's not that I dislike them. It's just sometimes I don't entirely know what is a good choice and what is a bad choice. Like I feel like I only have a broad strokes understanding of the technical aspect of warfare. So sometimes if there's a lot of that, I might get a little bit bogged down. But I'm still really looking forward to reading it. I hope that I like it. It has definitely been my most anticipated release of the entirety of 2021. So I really, really, really want to like it. And I will be picking it up almost first thing in September. So it is one of the books at the very top of my TBR for September. And those are the 3 books that I have already purchased that I would like to read. And there are 3 upcoming releases that I would like to read as well. One of these is a continuation of a series. So the last book in the Green Bones saga, Jade Legacy, is supposed to be released in November of 2021. And this is the only continuation of a series that I am presently waiting on. And I have to say, the Greenbone Saga is a series that I have struggled with a little bit. I love the idea behind the books. I love the magic system in the books, but I have had a tough time connecting to both the writing style and the characters. The characters are very gray, and I don't think that there are many of them that you are supposed to kind of latch onto and love wholeheartedly. But there's some sort of barrier, and I think it might be because I don't connect to the writing style, and that kind of interrupts my attachment to the story as a whole. But I just haven't really felt that any of the characters were particularly compelling to me. However, I read the first book, I read the second book. I do want to see what happens at the end. I know that everybody's going to be reading it, and I don't want to be left out of the conversation. I want to know what is going to happen. So I will finish out the series. I just wish that I had the same love for it that so many other people seem to have. One of the other books that I'm looking forward to, so this is a release that's coming up pretty soon actually, is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. And I have not read anything by Jay Kristoff. Actually, that's not true. I think I read a young adult novel that was maybe a collaboration. Sorry, could not think of the word. A collaborative novel between him and Amy Kaufman, maybe. I think it was called Aurora Rising. It was like set in space. I really didn't care for it, but I don't know how much of that is because of the tropes that were used, how much of it was because of each individual author. I have no idea. And I had heard really mixed things about Jay Kristoff. I tend to like tropey assassin fantasy, and so I had always thought that I would pick up his Nevernight trilogy, but then I heard so many people on BookTube talk about the things that they didn't like, and it just kind of got pushed further and further down on the TBR. But recently, one of the viewers of the channel that I talk with a lot on Discord has been reading it and absolutely loving it, and our tastes seem to align very, very well. So we tend to like the same things, whether it is anime or books or whatever. So the fact that he is enjoying it has made me feel like maybe I would like Jay Kristoff as well. So I do want to give him a try, and I think that I will start with this upcoming release, Empire of the Vampire. I haven't read a vampire novel, if you don't count Dresden with like the secondary vampire characters. I probably haven't read a vampire novel since Twilight, so it's probably time to, to move up and away from that. Even though unpopular opinion, I have a soft spot in my heart for Twilight. But I am looking forward to reading maybe something that is a little more brutal. And I know that John Gwynne blurbed this book and has talked about how much he loved it. And I'm not gonna lie, that definitely makes it a little more appealing to me. If he enjoyed it so much, and I enjoy his writing so much, then hopefully that means that I will also enjoy Jay Kristoff. That's some like wonky use of the transitive property or something. I don't know, some math theorem that I don't remember anymore. But hopefully, since, you know, A likes B and C likes A, then maybe C will like B too. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore, but hopefully I will like Jay Kristoff's book. I would really like to. I don't mind that kind of over-the-top, tropey style, and that's what, just based on the things that I've heard about Nevernight, that I'm expecting from this, but I don't know. We shall see what happens. And the very last book that I am looking forward to is a book that I think is coming out in November, but I'm not entirely sure actually of the date. And it is called A Marvelous Light. So this is a brand new release. I believe the author's name is Freya. I will pop it up on the screen because I don't remember their last name, unfortunately. But this is just something that, as I was perusing either the Orbit or Tor's anticipated or upcoming releases tab on their website, the cover really caught my eye. It's got a beautiful cover. And then at the kind of top of the page, the comp titles were This is Red, White, and Royal Blue meets Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. So I have not yet read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, but I would really like to read it. I want to read it hopefully in October. I had it on my books to read in 2021 list. It is giant. If you have any experience with the audiobook, I would actually like to know if it's any good, because I think I might try for the first time to do a combination of audio and reading, because it is like a giant chunky book. And I don't want it to suck up my entire October, but I would really like to read it this year. I also am not sure if I should be saying Norrell, which I have heard people say, or Norrell, which sounds nicer, but is probably not right. But regardless, I would really like to read this. One of my friends from med school really loves this book, and he has great taste in fantasy. So I have been wanting to read it, especially wanting to read it ever since he kind of hyped it up for me. So this book, this new release, is supposed to be kind of a romance meets this Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I'm assuming is a historical magical realism / fantasy novel. So those sound like two things that I would really like kind of mushed together. And the cover looked beautiful. I do like to pick up some anticipated releases that I don't know that much about. So hopefully this will be a nice shining jewel, a nice surprise to end out 2021. But those are it. I don't want to put too many books on this list and then end up not being able to get to them. So those are the 6 releases that I would still like to pick up in 2021. If anybody else has some 2021 releases that they haven't been able to get to, that they're looking forward to being able to read before the end of the year, then please let me know. I would love to hear it. And I will see you with another video soon. Bye.